I'm sorry. My ex came back for me. We're not getting married today. The call ended, and I became the joke of the entire City Hall marriage office. The clerk behind the counter couldn't stand it anymore. She pointed at a girl sitting nearby, just as dazed as I was. Look at her. Her fiancé ran off with a rich older woman. You two are both stranded in the same storm. Might as well pair up. The girl looked at me for 10 seconds. Then she stood, walked over, and asked, "Want to get married?" I brought all my documents. I nodded yes. 10 minutes later I had a wife. The cold glass doors of City Hall reflected my numb face. The marriage certificate in my hand felt like a piece of burning metal. The woman beside me was Sophie Whitmore, my new wife. 1 hour ago we had been complete strangers. The air between us was frozen solid, awkward enough to cut with a knife. People came and went around us. Their whispers were like tiny needles pricking my skin. I could feel their stares, pitying, mocking, entertained. This was the second time Rachel Quinn had turned me into an utter fool. At the door of City Hall with one phone call, something inside my chest had gone hollow. I could not even feel pain anymore. "Let's get something to eat," I said. My voice was dry like sandpaper scraping wood. Sophie looked up. Her eyes were very clear, though right now, they were covered in the same gray, defeated fog. She gave a soft okay. We walked into the nearest restaurant and sat across from each other. Silence rose between us like a wall. The server's menu finally broke the dead air. I ordered 2 dishes at random. "I'm Daniel Hart," I introduced myself again, as if saying it one more time might make this absurd day feel real. "Sophie Whitmore," she said quietly. The food arrived. Neither of us moved our forks. "My fiancé and I were together 5 years. Sophie spoke first, her gaze resting on the cup in front of her. "He chose a woman who could save him 20 years of hard work." Her voice was very calm. No crying, no hysteria. She was only stating a fact. That kind of calm was more suffocating than sobbing. I understood it. The greatest grief is when the heart has already died. My girlfriend, Rachel, continued, following her lead. "This is the second time she backed out on the day we were supposed to get married. Both times because of her ex." After saying it, I found it ridiculous myself. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, but I could not smile. One left for money, one left for old love. The two of us were the brightest disasters in City Hall that day. "What are you planning to do next?" I asked her. She shook her head. Her eyes were full of confusion. "I don't know. The apartment belonged to him. I have nowhere to go. I have a 2-bedroom place." The words left my mouth before I could think. As soon as I said it, we both froze. The air turned strange again. I hurried to explain, feeling my face heat up. "We could temporarily share the place." The word share sounded painfully ironic when paired with the marriage certificate in my hand. "Think of it as a buffer period for both of us," I added. "Don't worry, I won't. I'll sleep in the smaller room." Sophie looked at me. There seemed to be a faint light in those clear eyes. She was silent for a long time, long enough that I thought she would refuse. "Okay," she finally said. The meal tasted like nothing. I took her back to my apartment. The mortgage was not paid off yet, but it was the only route I had in this city. The place was small, but I kept it clean. She stood in the living room and looked around. Her tense shoulders seemed to relax a little. "You can take the main bedroom," I said, pushing her suitcase in. "It has the balcony and better light." "Thank you," she said softly. Between us, other than thank you, there seemed to be nothing else to say. Late that night, I lay on the cold bed in the smaller room, staring at the ceiling. Everything felt like an absurd dream. My phone vibrated. A message from Rachel. "Don't be mad. Once I handle things here, I'll come back to you. Wait for me." Her tone was so natural, so entitled, like she was granting me some kind of favor she did not even think she needed to explain. What did she think I was? A recycling station that would always stand in place, waiting for her to summon me or throw me away? A wave of nausea rolled up from my stomach. I stared at that line of text, my finger hovering over the screen. Countless fights and reconciliations flashed through my mind. All those humble compromises, all those excuses I made to deceive myself. Now they looked like one slap after another across my face. I did not reply. Calmly, one by one, I deleted every way to contact her. Messaging app, phone number, everything. When I finished, it felt as if the huge stone pressing on my chest had finally cracked. The next morning, I was woken by the smell of food. I walked out of the smaller bedroom and saw Sophie in the kitchen, wearing one of my oversized t-shirts. Morning light spilled through the window and fell over her, giving her an unreal kind of beauty. On the table were 2 neat breakfasts. Millet porridge and fried eggs, golden eggs, green scallions, steaming hot. "You're awake." She turned back and smiled. "I didn't know what you liked, so I made something simple." I had lived on takeout for years. Breakfast was usually a bun grabbed on the way to work. A breakfast this warm and ordinary felt almost luxurious. "Thank you," I said. Sitting down, the porridge was fragrant and soft. One mouthful sent warmth spreading from my stomach through my limbs. The icy feeling from yesterday, that sense that the whole world had abandoned me, seemed to be chased away by this bowl of porridge. "You're a great cook," I said sincerely. "I used to cook often," she said lightly. I could imagine that used to had been for someone else. By silent agreement, neither of us mentioned yesterday again. After breakfast I got ready for work. This is the spare key. I placed a set of keys on the entryway cabinet. Stay here without worrying. Don't rush about work either. Take your time. She nodded and took the keys. Okay. As I changed shoes, she suddenly said, I'm unemployed for now. I might pay rent late. No need. I interrupted. Think of it as a roommate welcome benefit. I closed the door, still feeling her gaze on my back. When I arrived at the office, the atmosphere was strange. Several co-workers were gathered together. The moment they saw me, they scattered. But the expressions on their faces gave them away. They wanted to laugh but didn't dare. My childhood friend and co-worker, Mark Lewis, pulled me aside. Dan, are you okay? He asked carefully. I'm fine. Rachel went way too far. This is the second time. How could she do that? Mark looked furious. My calm surprised him. No way. You're just letting it go. Everyone at City Hall was talking. They said some guy got stood up twice. My fist tightened quietly at my side. Yeah, I had become a joke. A joke everyone knew about. I got married, I said. Mark's jaw nearly hit the floor. What? To who? Don't tell me you lost your mind. To a girl who also got stood up. I did not say more. I turned and went back to my desk. All day, I felt countless gazes studying my back. I buried myself in work and pressed every emotion down. That evening, I dragged my exhausted body home. The moment I opened the door, I froze. A warm orange light glowed inside. The smell of dinner floated through the air. Sophie walked out of the kitchen in an apron holding a spatula. You're back. Dinner's almost ready. I looked at her then at the home she had made, warm and full of life. Some hard corner inside me suddenly softened. Dinner was generous. With the few ingredients in my fridge, she somehow made 3 dishes and a soup. Did you empty my whole fridge? I joked. She smiled, her eyes curving. Your fridge had almost nothing in it to begin with. For the first time we sat together like real family and talked work, movies, little unimportant things. The atmosphere was easy. After dinner I washed the dishes. She dried them beside me. I used to be a financial analyst. I was surprised. I saw some trading software on your computer. He pointed toward the study. If you don't mind, I can take a look for you. I certainly did not mind. I was even a little expectant. I brought out my laptop. She sat down and began typing. The way she focused was completely different from how she looked while cooking. Calm, professional, with a certain sense of control. I began to feel that my flash marriage wife might not be simple at all. Sophie scanned through the spreadsheets with astonishing speed. Every few seconds, she clicked into another report, brows furrowing slightly. Finally, she turned the screen toward me. Your company's investment model has a flaw. I blinked. What? She pointed at a projection chart. Whoever built this assumed raw material costs would stay flat for the next 18 months. They won't. I frowned. Our finance director approved that. She calmly opened another website and pulled up industry reports. The overseas suppliers are already reducing exports. Prices will rise within 2 months. She typed a few more lines. And this client? She enlarged another file. They're hiding debt. I stared. How can you tell? She smiled faintly. Because they moved it into 3 shell companies. I suddenly remembered she had casually mentioned being a financial analyst. This wasn't financial analyst. This was terrifying. You figured that out in 10 minutes? She shrugged. It wasn't very hidden. The next morning, I hesitated for half an hour before printing the report she'd made. Finally, I carried it into my boss's office. Manager Collins barely glanced at it. Who wrote this? I organized it. He tossed it onto his desk. Stop trying to play investment expert. Leave professional matters to professionals. I quietly picked the report back up. Understood. When I returned to my cubicle, Mark leaned over. Rejected. I laughed bitterly. Completely. That evening, I told Sophie about it while we ate dinner. She wasn't surprised. If they don't listen, they'll learn the expensive way. You sound very confident. I'm certain. She took another bite of rice. Within 3 months, they'll lose that project. I chuckled. If that actually happens, I'm treating you to the fanciest restaurant in town. She raised her teacup. I'll remember that. 2 weeks later, my phone exploded before I even reached the office. Mark practically screamed through the speaker. Dan, get here. Something huge happened. I hurried upstairs. The entire finance department was in chaos. Manager Collins looked pale. The client Sophie had warned us about had declared bankruptcy overnight. Millions had vanished. Every company involved was scrambling to reduce losses. People ran back and forth carrying files. Phones rang nonstop. Someone suddenly shouted, "Who reviewed this client originally?" Silence filled the office. Then several pairs of eyes slowly turned toward Manager Collins. His face became uglier by the second. Mark quietly leaned toward me. Didn't your report mention exactly this? I nodded. It did. Before noon, the general manager personally called me upstairs. He placed my discarded report on the table. You wrote this. I paused. Someone helped me. Who? I thought about Sophie, then shook my head. I'd rather not say. The general manager looked at me for a long moment. Finally he sighed. You saved the company from investing further. He pushed a thick envelope toward me. Performance bonus. When I opened it later, $100,000. I stood outside the building staring at the check for a full minute. That evening, I bought far more groceries than usual. When I got home, Sophie looked at the overflowing bags and laughed. Did you rob a supermarket? We're celebrating. I waved the bonus check. They finally believed the report. Her eyes widened slightly. Congratulations. I smiled. No. I looked at her seriously. Congratulations to us. For the first time since our ridiculous marriage, she didn't immediately deny sharing the credit. Instead, she smiled. A genuine smile. It reached her eyes. At that exact moment the doorbell rang. I opened it. Standing outside was Rachel. She wore an expensive dress and carried a suitcase, smiling as if nothing had happened. I'm back. She tried to walk inside. Then she saw Sophie standing in my kitchen wearing an apron. Rachel's smile froze. Who is she? Before I could answer, Sophie quietly walked over. She stood beside me, naturally slipping her hand into mine. Then she looked at Rachel with perfect composure. I'm his wife. The hallway fell deathly silent. Rachel stared at the marriage certificate framed on the entryway wall. A document I had absent-mindedly set there because I hadn't known where else to put it. Her face slowly lost all color. Daniel, you actually married someone else? Rachel laughed. First, a short, disbelieving laugh. Stop joking. Her eyes darted between me and Sophie. You only got married a few weeks ago. This has to be fake. She looked directly at me. Daniel, tell her. I didn't answer. Instead, I calmly squeezed Sophie's hand. Rachel's smile finally cracked. You're serious? You left me at City Hall, I said evenly. Again. I told you I'd come back. You did. I was handling something important. I nodded. I know. So why are you acting like this? She stepped closer, her voice rising. I came back, didn't I? Isn't that what matters? I looked at her quietly. For 5 years I had always been the one apologizing first. Always the one giving in. Always the one waiting. This time, I stopped waiting. Rachel stared at me as if I had slapped her. No. She shook her head violently. You're just trying to make me jealous. She pointed at Sophie. You paid her, didn't you? Sophie's expression didn't change. I'm legally married to Daniel. Rachel laughed again. Legally? You think a marriage certificate means anything? Daniel loves me. Before I could speak, Sophie calmly asked. Did he? Rachel froze. If he loved you, Sophie continued softly, why did you leave him at the altar twice? You didn't just choose someone else. You chose someone else twice. Every word landed like a hammer. Rachel's lips trembled. I had my reasons. Those reasons didn't stop you from expecting him to wait. Rachel suddenly turned to me. Daniel. She grabbed my sleeve. I was confused. Ryan came back after years. I just needed closure. You disappeared for 3 weeks, I replied. You blocked me. So did you. I only blocked you because he asked you to? Rachel couldn't answer. The silence said enough. Just then the elevator doors opened. A tall man hurried over. Rachel. She spun around. Ryan. The ex she had abandoned me for. The moment he saw me, his expression darkened. There you are. Rachel frowned. Ryan. He walked straight toward her. My mother saw the photos. What photos? Our vacation. Rachel's face turned white. You said she already knew. I lied. What? My family cut off my cards. His voice was filled with irritation. My apartment's frozen too. Rachel blinked. So, I need you to lend me some money first. I'll pay you back. The hallway became eerily quiet. Rachel stared at him. You came here, for money? Ryan frowned as though she were being unreasonable. What else? I thought you came because you wanted me. I do, he answered casually. But love doesn't pay bills. Daniel and Sophie exchanged a silent glance. Rachel's shoulders began shaking. No, Ryan sighed impatiently. You knew my family was against us. So you used me? What do you mean used? You promised we'd start over. We will. As soon as things settle down. He reached for her hand. Come on. Rachel jerked away. No. Her voice echoed through the hallway. You said Daniel never understood me. He didn't. You said you couldn't live without me. I was emotional. You told me to leave my wedding. Ryan rubbed his temples. Rachel, don't make this dramatic. She stared at him as though seeing him for the first time. Then, she slowly turned back toward me. Tears streamed down her face. Daniel, I made a mistake. I know. I'll break up with him. I know. We can go back to how things were. I smiled faintly. No. Her breathing hitched. You always forgive me. I used to. But you loved me. I did. The past tense broke her completely. She burst into tears, collapsing onto the hallway floor. Ryan looked embarrassed. Rachel, stop crying. She shoved him away. Get away from me. Neighbors began opening their doors after hearing the commotion. Whispers spread through the corridor. Isn't that the woman who left her fiancé at City Hall? Again. I heard he married someone else the same day. What a fool. Rachel covered her face, humiliated. Ryan glanced at the curious neighbors and quietly backed toward the elevator. This is embarrassing. I'm leaving first. The elevator doors closed. He didn't even look back. Rachel stared at the closed doors in disbelief. The man she had chosen over everything had abandoned her just as easily as she had abandoned me. Sophie gently closed our apartment door. The muffled sound of Rachel sobbing remained outside. Inside, the apartment was warm and quiet again. I let out a long breath. Sophie looked at me. Are you all right? I nodded after a long silence. For the first time in years. I think I finally am. Rachel disappeared after that humiliating night. For 2 weeks. No calls. No messages. No dramatic scenes. The silence felt almost unsettling. I don't think she's given up, Sophie said one evening as she looked out the apartment window. I smiled. She'll get over it. Sophie didn't answer. Instead, she quietly tightened her grip on her coffee mug. 3 days later, I worked late at the office. The parking garage was almost empty. As I unlocked my car, a familiar voice called out, Daniel. I turned. Rachel stood there. Her hair was messy, her eyes bloodshot. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I've been waiting. Rachel. I just want to talk. I have nothing left to say. I got into my car. Before I could close the door, Rachel threw herself against it. Please. People in the garage glanced over. Not wanting a scene, I sighed. 5 minutes. Her eyes lit up. I knew you still cared. No. I just don't want everyone watching. They sat at a nearby cafe. Rachel smiled weakly. I knew you'd come. I came to end this. Her smile faded. Daniel, I made a mistake. You've said that. I'll do anything. I don't want anything. She reached across the table. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I pulled my hand away. I'm married. That doesn't count. It does. You only married her because I wasn't there. I stayed married because I wanted to. Rachel's face went pale. You love her. I looked out the window. I respect her. I trust her. I'm happiest when I go home and she's there. Her breathing became uneven. So, you've replaced me. No, you left. Rachel suddenly stood so quickly her chair crashed backward. No. Everyone turned to look. You belong with me. I don't belong to anyone. She fled the cafe. That night, Sophie listened quietly as I told her everything. She frowned. If she contacts you again, don't meet her alone. I won't. Neither of us noticed the phone on the table. A location sharing app was still active. Months ago, Rachel had persuaded me to install it. I had forgotten to remove it. The following Saturday, I stopped by an old storage unit to pick up some documents. The hallway lights flickered. As I unlocked the door, something struck the back of my shoulder. I stumbled. Before I could react, someone shoved me inside. The door slammed. Rachel. She stood in front of it, breathing hard. I just need you to listen. Open the door. You never listen anymore. She held up the key with shaking hands. Everyone stole you from me. No one stole me. You abandoned me. I made mistakes. You can forgive me. I already forgave you. Hope filled her face. Then I finished. But forgiveness doesn't mean we get back together. Her expression shattered. No. Outside, my phone repeatedly rang. Rachel had taken it. The screen lit up over and over. Sophie calling. Back at the apartment. Sophie frowned. Daniel always answered. Always. She tried again. No answer. Then she remembered. He had said he was stopping by the storage unit. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. She immediately drove there. Daniel's car was still outside. But he was nowhere to be seen. She called his name. Silence. Then, very faintly, a thud. From inside one of the storage rooms. Sophie rushed toward the sound. The door was locked. She heard Daniel's voice. Sophie. I'm here. She didn't waste a second. She called emergency services and reported that someone appeared to be unlawfully holding a person inside a locked storage unit. Within minutes, officers arrived. Rachel heard the approaching sirens. Her face drained of color. No. They're here because of her. She looked at Daniel desperately. Tell them we're just talking. I'm asking you one last time. I held out my hand. Unlock the door. Rachel burst into tears. I never wanted this. The officers ordered her to unlock it. When she hesitated, they forced the door open. The moment the door swung wide, Sophie rushed in. Daniel. She immediately checked that I wasn't injured. I'm okay. Rachel stood frozen in the corner. An officer calmly instructed her to step away while another spoke with everyone present. As Rachel was escorted out, she looked back at me one last time. I really did love you. I met her gaze. I believe you. Her eyes brightened for a split second. Then I continued. But love without respect and trust isn't enough to build a life together. Rachel lowered her head. Without another word, she walked out with the officers. After giving our statements, Sophie and I finally returned home. The apartment was quiet. She wrapped me in a tight hug. For a long moment, Neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, "I'm just glad you're safe." I hugged her back. "So am I." For the first time since that disastrous day at City Hall, I knew with certainty that I wasn't just moving on from my past. I was building a future with someone who showed up when it mattered most. Rachel's epilogue. Rachel Quinn was charged for unlawfully restraining Daniel after the kidnapping. Because Daniel had not been physically harmed and Rachel had eventually cooperated with the police, she avoided the harshest possible sentence. Even so, she received a criminal conviction, mandatory counseling, probation, and a restraining order forbidding her from contacting Daniel again. The news spread quickly. The same people who had laughed about the woman who abandoned her fiancé twice were now whispering about the woman who kidnapped her ex-husband because she couldn't accept he had moved on. Her employer quietly let her go. No company wanted someone whose name was attached to headlines like that. The friends who had once encouraged her to follow her heart gradually stopped answering her calls. Even Ryan disappeared completely. She later discovered he had already moved to another city, with yet another wealthy girlfriend. To him, she had never been the love of his life. She had simply been convenient. Rachel sat alone in her tiny rented apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes and unpaid bills. For the first time in years, there was no Daniel waiting to rescue her. No one cooking dinner. No one paying attention when she cried. One rainy afternoon, while organizing old belongings, she found a small photo album. Inside were pictures from happier days. Daniel helping her move into her first apartment. Daniel waiting outside her office with an umbrella. Daniel kneeling with a ring during their first cancelled wedding. Daniel smiling anyway after she promised, "Next time, I won't let you down." Tears blurred her vision. She finally understood something she had refused to admit for years. Daniel had never left her. She had been the one walking away, over and over again, always believing he would still be there when she returned. She closed the album and hugged it tightly. But memories could not be rewound. Apologies could not rebuild trust. Some mistakes only revealed their cost after it was far too late. Years later, she occasionally heard bits of news about Daniel. He and Sophie had bought a house. They were successful in their careers. People said they looked at each other the way newlyweds did, even after years of marriage. Rachel never tried to see them. The restraining order remained in place, but even after it expired, she stayed away. Not because she had stopped regretting everything, but because she finally understood that loving someone also meant accepting when they had found happiness without you. The greatest punishment she received was not the conviction, the lost job, or the public humiliation. It was waking up every morning knowing that the man who had loved her unconditionally